before, but it feels. Well, they can say that I've lost my mind.
Good evening and welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm your host, Joshua Solomon. With me, as always, is the Honorable J.P. Marzullo. It's getting warmer out.
It is, well for a day.
Sort of.
What was that little thing in school you would say, like, April showers bring May flowers?
Yeah.
What do May flowers bring?
I don't know.
Pilgrims.
Pilgrims? Ha, ha, ha.
Okay, so that would, but it's warming up. It's supposed to be warming up anyway.
I
but-
know people who are already out on their motorcycles, and they're just
Yeah, I've heard them right
They're
down
just
the street here, as a matter
crazy.
of fact.
They're nuts.
You're not ready for that?
No, it's too cold and it's too much salt.
Did you
on
put the
road.
shovels away and all that stuff yet?
No.
No.
That's just
'Cause you're gonna
pure-
jinx us.
That's
No.
just pure laziness. Well,
Your wife jinxed us,
She jinxed
right?
us last week. and
Yeah,
we
she
got-
did.
we
Lorraine
got some
jinxed
nice,
us.
so.
All right.
As always, Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades is sponsored by the Wilson Hill Pistol Club, the oldest sports shooting club in New Hampshire, located right here in Manchester, 1732 Lakeshore Road. The monthly membership meeting is the first Wednesday of every month. That's today at 7 p.m. directly after the show. Everyone is welcome to show up. You can join the club. You can find out all about it during that membership meeting. We do not have a waiting list like other clubs in the state. And you can go to our website, wilsonhillpistol.org. You can get the training schedule and you can inquire about training. We have this Saturday, April 5th, at the Everett Arena in Concord is the gun show. We will have a booth there. So that's an all-day event at Everett Arena in Concord. We will be there. I will be there. Next Saturday, we have at the clubhouse, 1732 Lakeshore Road, we have Try a Gun. You can come, and we will have dozens upon dozens of different handguns of all makes and models. We'll have new stuff, we'll have old stuff, antique stuff. You can go ooh and ah. We are going to have NRA and Second Amendment Foundation instructors on hand, and as well as range officers such as myself to guide you through learning how to shoot these things. It's a good thing. We call it the Try a Gun. If you're planning on buying a pistol, make sure you can handle it before you go and buy it. Don't just go and buy whatever the salesperson sells you. You don't want to go and buy a
Make sure it fits your
357
hand.
Magnum and not be able to shoot it later. So
Yeah.
we like to see people come and train, and or at the very least, try it under supervision. So that's next week, April 12th. And then the following week is a fast handgun, fundamentals and safety training. It is the very bottom level handgun training. You can go on the site, you can inquire about all of those. If you're watching this online, the website is at the bottom of your screen. There. Whew. Well, we just have more stuff on the schedule. Summer's coming, so we're going to have more stuff on the schedule. So the intro is going to get longer and longer. So.
Okay, so I can show up like a half hour after, right?
Yes.
No, you talk quick enough, though, to do that. Where I used to talk quick when I worked in New York City, and then I was smart enough to go to Annapolis and lived there for a lot of years, and that really slowed me down. Like I was expecting, you go to a restaurant and you would expect getting in and out of there like for breakfast real quick. Not down there.
Really?
Everything came to a screeching halt. And you know what? I loved it after a while, but it took me like 2 years. Like walking. I used to walk in front of everybody because they kind of mope along behind me. But, you know, I still say sir, and I can. We had a move after I was able to face one person and say, "How you all doing?" and Donna said, "Okay, it's time to get out of here."
We don't do the y'all
So after
thing.
20 years, that's what we did. But
All right. So we have a guest tonight. You want to introduce him?
sure, we have
A returning guest.
a returning guest. He was a candidate for CD1 last time. Chris Bright. Hey, Chris.
Hey guys, how are you?
Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing
So
well.
you two haven't met because I think it was just Chris and I last
That's right.
time.
And I didn't know you lived in Annapolis.
I did.
Huh.
Yeah. Lots of
Yeah,
years.
enemy territory right there.
Yeah, I know it is.
Yeah.
Enemy territory.
He's a Navy guy too. So
Oh,
you
you're a
gotta-
Navy guy? Yeah, I'm a West Point grad.
yeah. So you're not quite outnumbered.
Yeah. Well, you know, I just last weekend I was down in Pensacola.
Oh, yeah.
My son is down there. He's
Are
in
they
the Navy.
practicing yet?
No, they start in May. I looked
Yeah,
that up.
yeah.
Yeah, the Blue Angels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
Just the beach down there while they're practicing is just fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Naval Aviation, the National Naval Aviation Museum. Have you been to that?
I have.
I've not seen that.
They've got the last combat F-14.
Yep.
They got George Bush's S-2, the one that he landed on. Yeah. Oh, it's a
It's
great.
Smithsonian quality museum.
is.
It's
It is.
Yeah.
phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, even a museum at the yard, at the Naval Academy is like that. I
Is
mean,
it?
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's
Yeah,
great.
never been in that one.
I could sneak
I didn't
in.
think I'd get out if I went in.
Well, we sponsored kids there for 20 years. They have a sponsorship program that's been going on for over 100 years. And you get a midshipman, and they live with you when they're able to get off the yard,
Yep.
you know, when they're on. And if they're in trouble and they can't go home, you have them. You know,
Yep,
we
yep.
had one kid had a big Jimmy, a kid from we had all Texas kids, I think, and one from Seattle. Anyway, this one kid was doing wheelies on the soccer field with his Jimmy and dug it up terribly. And of course, he was turned in, which
Yeah.
he should have been, you
Yeah.
know. But they grounded him basically, so he couldn't go home for Christmas or Thanksgiving. So he actually ended up living with us longer than he was with his parents, probably. But no, it's a great program. It's a mentorship program,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, they had something similar.
I would think
at
you-
West Point.
yeah, I would think
But I
so.
was from New Jersey, so
You could go home.
I could go home. Yeah. So we ended up taking a bunch of buddies
With-
home all
yeah.
the time. So my mom has similar stories to you,
Yep.
where She's got all of her cadets, you know,
Yeah.
all these years later. They still send her. Some of my buddies are better at sending my parents Christmas cards than I am.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, guys, come on, man. Like, you know, give me a heads up that you're doing this. Like,
Yeah. Our kids still call my wife on Mother's Day, me, and Father's Day.
Do they?
It
That's
is
cool.
so cool that we're still connected like that.
Yeah,
you know?
that's cool.
It's awesome.
You know, as I didn't go to one of the major academies. I went to Maine Maritime Academy.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And they too had those types of sponsorship programs with families in the town, right?
Yep.
The town of Castine has a permanent population at the time of about 600 residents. The academy had 650 odd students. So when school was in, we doubled
the
size
size,
of the town. But living in the regiment, you know, getting up, doing your running, you know, getting dressed, doing your uniform thing, and just going to classes all day and being yelled at all day as a freshman. It is fabulous to be able to have a sponsor family to just take a break.
Yeah, it
right?
is. Yep.
I got a couple hours. I can take a breather. I can
Be out of your uniform.
I can get
Just-
out of my uniform. I can just relax for a little bit.
Yep.
And it is a big mental break for those types of
And I'll
students.
tell you, I
Absolutely.
think the sponsors get as much out of it as you guys did. You know, I mean, it was really great for us.
Yeah.
So we weren't here to talk about that, but
but here we are.
So, Chris, fill us in on, you know, what have you been doing since last time? Where are you headed? What are you going to do now? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I never ran before. So last election cycle, every single experience was brand new.
Yeah.
And pretty much every gate that we went through was a fire drill. Like, oh, that's how you're supposed to do it, and doing it better. So when the primary day came, I mean, I was absolutely exhausted by the time it was over.
And you're ready for it to be over.
You're
too,
ready for
right?
it to be over. Yeah, I remember like Joe Kelly and I, we were at some event together like 2 weeks before the election, and he looking at me and I'm looking at him. I'm like, "Are you as tired as I am?" Like everybody was grinding. But so when that ended, you know, I ended up doing, stayed involved for like that month with Lily and Russell, trying to help them get over the hump and see if we can make a dent. It's been frustrating for us, right, to have such a good showing in the state, win, you know, everything, and then at the federal level have a clean sweep again. It's like, man, we got to crack this code.
It's been a lot of years.
It has, like 8 years, right?
Yeah.
I think if I can remember right.
Yeah.
So, you know, coming off of that, once we got through that party, and then it was like, all right, now it's November, and I forced myself. I said nothing. No politics. Don't get on Facebook. Don't engage.
Yeah,
don't.
you got to take a break
Until January 1st. Because I knew myself, right? Like I was like, I'm going to do this, and this. And so it was a real forcing function to just kind of quiet it down, and I needed that. It was great to reconnect with the kids. We had a really nice holiday season. And then January rolled around and was kind of ready to rock and roll. So I launched 2 other companies.
Oh, wow.
My one company that I had built, it's a national company now. We actually, right before the election, we picked up Hawaii and Alaska and some contracts. It was like, holy cow, we're in every state now.
Wow. And what was that one? I can't remember.
It's a facilities management company. So nothing sexy at all, but just absolute high demand. You know, we do Meta as a client. We do like some of their server areas, you know, clean rooms. We'll do everything from ceiling tiles to put in EV stations across the country.
Nice.
So they're rolling, and I think what any entrepreneur can hope for as they're building a company is to eventually have a team that's running it.
Yeah.
And so when I ran for Congress, obviously I needed to have the team in place. It was a good forcing function, and so I stepped away from that. It was just looking back, it was such a tumultuous year between running. My oldest son left for the Navy, so there was this transition from being a single dad, you know, to now having a kid leave the nest, you know, like running for Congress, transition the company, and so all these things were happening all last year. When the election came to a culmination, I didn't have a place to go back. Because the president, this woman Jamaica out in Colorado, was doing a hell of a job. She had doubled the company while I wasn't there. I'm not going to mess that up.
They don't need you anymore.
That's it.
But it's a weird feeling. Like, what should I be doing? So,
Run again.
so we launched these other companies, got that up and running. Lo and behold, it was like October. The Army called back and said, "Hey, noticed you're done running for office. You know, there's a position down in Rhode Island, so I'm going to be taking over this team of civil affairs guys down in Newport. Probably do that for the next, year and a half. I really enjoyed it. I'm starting to get too old for this. I'll be 50 in October.
Yeah.
But probably one more time around to take over a team. So, and then obviously strongly considering running again for CD1. A lot of my friends and family that kind of watched and just saw what a grind it was. Like, why would you do this again? Because it cost me a ton of money.
Sure.
You step away, from the job and all of that, and so it was a tremendous amount of time and money and resources that went into it. But I honestly feel like almost a sense of duty to
Another way to
do
serve
this
your
one more
country.
time.
Yeah.
It feels like that because I was so uplifted by, Trump comes in, a new administration comes in, and it was twofold. In one sense, you look at Pappas and these other people and say, look how fast we pivoted.
Yes.
Why couldn't we have closed these borders under your watch?
Right.
And a lot of the things that they started to go about and fix, I was really, encouraged by. But a lot of this is all done by executive order. Yeah. And so if we want to codify this progress into law, we're going to have to make sure that we hold Congress, make sure that we win the Senate, the Senate seat that's coming up.
You bring up a good point. So obviously this last year was a presidential year, so we get the biggest turnout during presidential elections, and we don't get a huge turnout, at least here in New Hampshire, in off years.
Nope.
And the next cycle is going to be an off year cycle.
Yeah.
But we've got some new ammunition, right? Like when Trump took office, we're talking not even 24 hours. We're talking hours. Before he went to any of the inaugural balls, he's signing executive orders, and he's fixing stuff.
Right.
He's fixing stuff immediately. And you make a good point. Now, whoever runs against Pappas, Goodlander, if any of
Senate
these,
too.
For Senate, but the idea, I think we talked about the possibility that Pappas or Goodlander are going to go for the Senate seat.
Maybe both.
Right? But in any case, when you're running against these candidates, whether it's for their seats in a couple of years when they're up again or for the Senate seat, we've got some ammunition. Say, hey, wait a minute. You guys spent years gaslighting us, saying that these things cannot be done, and yet you wouldn't be able to ram it through Congress or get it through Congress because of the Republicans, right? You now we can say, no, these things can be done by executive order, and if Congress has the wherewithal, they can solidify them later on. Like this is doable, and it's doable at light speed. And you have that to now go and say, hey, where were you?
That's right.
Because you followed the party line and you just fell in line with whatever the Democrat Party wanted you to say, and you said it. But now we have actual evidence that says, no, you didn't have to say those things. You had the power to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
I couldn't agree more.
This is a big one, and so really the next thing is we need to get Republicans out to the polls in these off-cycle elections.
Yeah, getting the vote
town
out
level and the state level and the federal level, right? Because we're going to end up like Wisconsin. They lost that Supreme Court.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
I'm convinced that it was a turnout issue because if Republicans showed up, the problem is we're not, people have jobs and they don't take time off to go and do this, especially during off-cycle elections.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
We need to get people out during the off-cycle elections because when we're on a presidential year, we tend to make big waves.
Yeah.
So
the thing that's amazing to me is they're doubling down on things that we didn't want, like 70 million people didn't want. And like they're doubling down on having biological men and women sports. They're doubling down on transgenders. They're doubling
There's
down.
got to be
so they
something
continue to
else
do
going
this.
on that is
I hope they keep
driving
it up,
this, because nobody is, as much as we want to say that they're all dingbats, the bottom line is you don't make it to Congress, the Senate, or to be a federal judge by being a dingbat. These people know what they're doing. They know, they have common sense, and they have an agenda, and whatever that agenda is, we have to figure it out. And but if they're going to keep doubling down,
well, I mean, it seems that way to me. That right at this point,
it does seem like that. And,
So far,
and you think,
yeah.
okay, you guys are just shooting yourselves.
So they're
in the foot.
making
like
Elon.
What are you doing here? You know it's going to get worse next time around.
Yep, and they're making Elon Musk the boogeyman.
The lightning rod. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not going to. I can't see that going on much longer.
I agree, because I feel like they're doing the same old. We're going to wear you down, wear you down until you resign. They do that with conservatives all the time. They just have an onslaught of public relations until they wear somebody down, and then they say, "Yeah, I can't take it anymore, so I'm retiring." And I just hope that that doesn't happen with Elon. Thank God it didn't happen with Trump. I mean, they threw everything at him, including bullets, and he said, "No, I'm going to stay."
Yeah,
and I'm
absolutely.
hoping that Elon has the same wherewithal.
You know what I had this kind of aha moment, epiphany, watching this administration. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Mike Waltz.
Yep.
Let's see, who else? Vivek. I mean, these were all entrepreneurs.
Bergman.
But these guys built businesses, right? And entrepreneurs, like Elon Musk was like, we're going to make an electric car at the time when people thought that was impossible to do. It's,
right.
At an affordable price where you can kind of achieve scale. Then he said, all right, hold my beer. Now we're going to go to the moon. Trump's built this massive empire. Mike Waltz was the founder and CEO of a 400-person company. We know what Vivek's done. He's a billionaire. Entrepreneurs look at the world differently. And entrepreneurs see these problems and they start attacking it and they iterate along the way. And when they hit an obstacle, a lot of the outside world who's watching was like, that's a failure. Like, you guys, like you messed it up, you did this. That's exactly right. It's failing forward. It's actually figuring out, okay, when you take that big swing, you want to hit a home run. But if you didn't, at least you learn what didn't work. Mm-hmm. And so, sure, there's things that they're doing right now that look messy, that maybe you would do it a little bit differently, but that's the problem when you take on these massive types of engagements. Yeah. It's bound to look messy, and so go ahead.
It's been a long time coming. Ever since I was a teenager, it was obvious to me that government gets in the way. Reagan said it. Government gets in the way. What was it? The 5 worst words you can hear is "I'm from the government. And I'm here to help," right? Something like that. A private industry or privatization works better than the government, and that was something that Ross Perot tried to bring to it.
That's right.
And we weren't ready for it. We weren't buying it yet, and it disrupted that particular election cycle. But thank God we're getting to the point where we're realizing that that's the case, because the government, the administrative, the bureaucracy does not allow for that type of innovation. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's not how we do it. This is how we do it, regardless of the outcome. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Last night, my son and I, we were out to dinner, and there was a couple sitting right next to us, and they were all bent out of shape that Trump's closing the Department of Education, right? And I'm listening to him talk, and it's this massive amounts of just disinformation that's pushed out. It's
sure.
Oh, we don't value education, and it's like, just stop with the talking points. It's not about that. The critical functions of the Department of Education are still going to be there. They're going to get reallocated to different agencies.
Yep.
And when you look at things from a business perspective, you eliminate redundancies. Mm-hmm. You eliminate when 2 different people are doing the same job and they're not talking to each other and money's getting spent. That's what this is. And that's why when they talk about Elon Musk and his crack squad, these are 30-year-old people that are geniuses
Yes.
that can write these algorithms and can kind of tease out redundancies, and you make those cuts. So I love the work that they're doing right now. Yeah, it's probably not, it's not perfect, but that's what entrepreneurship and that's what this stuff is about, is innovating and just kind of tweaking it along the way and making progress. And so, yeah, I mean, we're headed in a good direction. What we have to do once, this is going to take years, so we need to keep building on that, codifying this stuff
Codify it.
into law,
Yep.
and then trying to ensure like our long-term success. Because my fear is that, to your point, we get the midterm elections come back. There's a swing, against Trump because the Democrats are all pissed off that no one's listening to them. They get the vote out. We don't. We get basically neutered for the next 2 years. And if we don't get a Republican in for president, all this progress is going to be undone
Right,
with a
because
pen.
that's the double-edged sword here. Is that Trump and the GOP are educating the other side on how quickly changes can be made and
It was the
affect the
playbook.
entire population.
Absolutely.
And make no mistake, they will do it the instant they have an opportunity. On whatever that January 20 is, it's gonna start happening. And so we do need to do our due diligence now,
Yeah.
and we need to make sure that we show up to the polls. But we've got some good news. I mean, there were the special elections yesterday in Florida.
Won
So
both
we-
seats.
We won both seats, so we're solidifying, some power in the House there. So
Yep.
Yeah, we have to find a way.
increase those margins however we can.
Yeah, I mean, to your point in the beginning, we have to find a way to win the congressional seats in this state because we're not really good at it. And we look for the perfect conservative, and that happens, I think. We look for the perfect conservative, and they get beat. I think things are changing, and
We also have the issue with the RNC, right? We have the issue where
RNC,
if we haven't chosen the right, if the right person isn't running in New Hampshire, the RNC is not going to back us with any money, and
Right.
we're just going to be hammered by the DNC money.
yep. But Elon Musk's got a lot of money. Maybe he'll help out a little.
Yeah.
I'm going to send him an email later on tonight. I'm sorry. He doesn't do email. He only does X. So
That's right.
he takes. Did you know he did that? He really had. He really did. He dropped his phone number. So you have to, if you call him, you have to be on his private list to be able to call him on X, video X,
It's everything
email.
on
Everything
X.
is X. That's how he communicates.
His son's name is X, isn't
Yeah.
it? What is?
It's not just X.
Some weird.
It's really strange.
Little X.
Little X. that's
Little
it.
X is his name. Yes. But yeah, no. Elon has this was about a year ago. He says, "I'm doing all communication through X. Anybody wants to get a hold of me? That's how you do it. Period."
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are
he's
your plans?
invested
what do you,
in his own companies. So
what did you learn from last race that you think needs to be changed this time when you run?
The whole experience was an incredible learning experience. I mean, I learned that the swamp is real. I learned like how the money works. Best uses of advertising. And then just very micro things, how to be more efficient on the campaign trail. So, you're driving around from probably May until September. I mean, it just ramped and ramped and ramped. By July and August, we're doing 5-6 events a day. So how do you be efficient when you're going from, Derry, and then you've got to go up to Laconia, and then maybe like North Conway's on there, right? So we're thinking through, you know, you're doing phone calls. So just all these little kind of micro learnings on how.
So you have a
people-
driver, right?
I didn't last cycle. In fact, when people said, "Oh, you're going to get a driver," I thought that was absolutely pretentious. I was like, "I don't need a driver. What kind of jerk do I look like? I can drive myself."
You can get a lot of work when you're not driving.
Yeah,
especially
so
in between those things.
The ROI on hiring a driver and having that time back, because I'd get home from an event at 10, 10:30, 11, depending on where it is.
Yep.
And then you've got 15, 20 emails to do. You know, you've got to follow up on this and that. And next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. and then you're like, oh my God, I got a breakfast tomorrow at 7 in Hampton. So I got to get up at 5. So being more efficient and thinking about how we run, you know, the campaign, run the time. And then the other thing is pace yourself. Because when I came out, the first team I had was a DC-based team. I fired them and pivoted. So we had to do a full campaign switch, like with all the key players in January after I'd already announced. So having things right, having, you know, a ramp plan. So if we come out of the gate and I'm running as hard as I did and we've got 18 months to go, I'm going to burn out. Sure. So we're gonna be more strategic about, you know, where the events are. So a lot of different lessons learned, yeah, I think this time around will be an entirely different game.
So how did you use your military background from West Point with the campaign? Did you use some kind of something you learned there that maybe some other people, you know, might not know about, and that helped you, or that you might do this time?
You know, the thing about, you know, West Point in the military was, I think, just the mentality.
Right.
There were times where, I mean, you're just absolutely dog tired.
So that helped you in the
Helps
campaign.
you, right? You know that you can make it through. And plus, the other thing is, it's like, if you're tired, this is nothing. Right? Like, you've been in worse situations.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been tired or you've been colder.
Sure.
So I just think it was kind of that grind mentality of, and having deployments under my belt where you would go away for a year. That does, in a weird way, give you some type of, you know, kind of template of, you know, go 4 months, and then you're going to be burnt out and take a week. You know,
Exactly.
I don't know. Some people who were close to me knew, but last April, I knew coming out of Memorial Day I was going to ramp up, so I just disappeared for like a week, and I went to Morocco. I did. I was like, I have to get as far away. And friends were like, "Oh, come and see me in Virginia or this or that."
No, you don't.
And I booked this flight to London, and then went over to Marrakesh, place I always wanted to go. I've never been over in that part of the world. And just jumped on a plane and went and figured out where I was going to stay on the flight over there. I remember my campaign team was like, "Where are you going?" But like stuff like that, I needed that mental break for like 5 days just to completely get off the grid and kind of refocus and come back and be ready to go. So stuff like that's helpful. So I'll probably program in, you know, some few select.
So because you've got you've still got a long time. This is going to be a long campaign.
Yeah, I mean, right now, what are we, 18, 19 months away?
Yeah.
So
you're going to have to pace yourself.
You have to pace yourself. And, you know, last time I got in October, so that would still put me 6 months away from announcing. But, you know, with Shaheen's announcement and kind of the musical chairs going on, plus, like I said, I really felt the sense of duty. Like, how could you go for a year and a half and put in all this work, all this money, make all these learnings, and figure out how to do it, and then not do it again?
Right.
So, and the issues are still there. We've got like a strong leader now. We've got momentum. We are literally rewriting what government's going to look like, and this could be lasting for hundreds of years.
Yeah, this is historical.
It's historic, right? Like, we've been adding on layers of government for hundreds of years, and now we've got a leader in there that's saying, all right, let's relook this.
Yeah. So we're getting rid of, well, Department of Education, that's the big one that everyone's screaming about. FEMA's going away here pretty soon.
Yes.
We're
Health and Human Services.
Fixing the FBI. Health and Human Services is on the chopping block, and even the TSA is on the chopping block.
Yep.
That one was added.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the TSA is on the chopping block. We want to go back to the previous. I mean, prior to 9/11, the airlines and the individual airports were responsible
Right.
for paying for, hiring, training their security. All the equipment is still sitting there. You know, if you dissolve the TSA, you essentially either assign or sell that equipment to each individual airport, and you know, you could even have all the same people. They would just be hired by the airlines in the airport, right?
Right.
You know, whatever. But that's how it used to work. So the question is, well, that worked for years and years and years, and it worked until 9/11.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a fan of that,
But
honestly.
do we need an entire department, or do we just need the rules in place? Because the rules can stay the same. The software that they access can be the same. You know, because you don't have to show your ticket at security anymore. You just show your ID.
That's right.
They scan your ID. They have all the security features of all the IDs around the country are programmed in there, and they say, oh, yep, you've got a ticket, and you know, as long as the rules and
the standards,
screening
maybe. Yeah.
stays the same, you know, we take the bureaucratic overhead out of it and put it back into the hands of the local airports, we could probably do it. On the other hand, the software is not perfect. So New Hampshire has recently updated their Real ID.
Yes. Yeah.
And I, about 3 weeks ago, got my new driver's license, Real
Yep.
ID,
Yep.
and immediately jumped on a plane to Las Vegas
Yep.
to go to Area 51, which was a blast.
And I forgot to book it.
But right here at Manchester Airport, they scanned my ID and said, "No, your ID doesn't pass the
Real
security
ID.
checks, the Real ID check." And so they had to call a manager over from the TSA, and he says, "Yes, it's the new ID from New Hampshire, and it's not programmed into our national system yet."
There you go.
And I said, well, how long is that going to take? Because I've had my license for about a week. And they said the new security features on the New Hampshire license won't be in there until they get around to updating it. And he says, yeah, the Bahamas updated theirs a year ago, and we still have to manually check all of theirs.
Oh, God.
So they haven't gotten around to updating it. So I then had exactly the same problem coming home. And 2 weeks from now, I'm headed to the Lone Star State, and I'm going to have the same problem. I don't think they're going to update it. But anyway, the point
What
is...
were you saying about government being inefficient?
Exactly. So, but all of that responsibility can go back to being paid for by the airlines instead of paid for by the government. All right. So anyway, the TSA is on the chopping block. TSA, HSS...
USAID.
Yep.
USA, Department of Education. What was the other one? The CDC, I think is.
Yes.
The CDC's already been told to quit cooperating with the WHO,
Yep.
the World Health Organization.
Yep.
So the CDC's on the chopping block too. So I mean, that's a lot of money to get rid of all these agencies, and realistically, they're not all going to go away. And like you said, there's going to be some people in the security industry who are going to say, you know, TSA,
Yeah.
right? Because the TSA was born out of a very specific event, and the question is going to be, will that event occur again?
You could. I mean,
So-
like they want those people that attacked us want it to occur again. We fight
course.
against that threat every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you know, if there was the mandate to eliminate the TSA, and you alluded to it, I would want to see a minimum standard and at least have some type of mechanism to ensure that, you know, you've got established safety and kind of screening protocols, so that if you're in like states where maybe there could be a security vulnerability, where the budget isn't there, so you don't have as many people, and maybe they're a little bit more lax, and no offense to
Yeah.
Arkansas, but let's pick Arkansas, right? Because it just pops into my mind. Next thing you know, like Little Rock Airport has been
Is a target.
right? And so now they're entering, coming through there, and then launching. So those are where I see kind of standardization of federal, you know, resources, like roads and infrastructure, national defense, kind of those green. There is a function for federal government at some. I just don't want them dictating
Absolutely.
my everyday life.
I mean,
you know?
that is literally the primary function of the
That's
federal
right.
government is
Those
security
big
and protection
shared
of,
services.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's one function of government that I do advocate for. So anyway, I was just saying it's on the chopping block. I saw a news
Everything
story,
should be looked at, though.
So,
Yeah.
everything needs to be gone through.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea that they're doing that. Take a look at it. RFK is looking at stuff. And
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting the way he's approaching it.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm sure you're going to be asked over and over again, why are you running? Because you did it last time, and that's what people are going to think about. Like, okay, he ran last time, why is he running again? What? And you alluded to that. It's about serving. It's about serving. And
It's always been. You know, that kind of selfless service has been ingrained into me.
Sure.
So, you know, if I run again, and I'm really strongly leaning towards doing it again, it's just have to wrap up some items and make sure that we can do it the way I want. But the reason I would run again is exactly the same as a couple of months ago, and that really hasn't changed. You know, is that there's big problems that we need to solve. I believe in what this administration's mission is, and they're going to need help. And we have the opportunity with 3 out of 4 federal seats. I mean, I expect Maggie Goodlander to run, which I'm disgusted by. I mean, I just don't see public service as being a career and stepping stones. I mean, those people put their trust in you. You sat in that chair for 8 weeks and then decided you were ready for a promotion. That stuff gets under my skin.
That's exactly what Obama did. He did not finish his first term, his only term as senator before he was running for president.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And it's the power of the DNC to anoint folks, and there's cheating going on. I'll say it outright. Like the elections have been stolen for years, and they refined it, and now they've gotten caught. So I know that's kind of a hard thing to say if you're running for office that you know other elections have been stolen, but that's a firm belief of mine. That
People would say to me,
there's probably more that's been stolen than we're aware of.
When
ballot stuffing, et cetera. I'm sorry.
When you look at like the midterm election, and you kind of alluded to that as well, that midterms could always swing back. It was, you know, people say, well, maybe you wait 2 years and run when it's not, or who are they going to put up?
No, we still got to do the midterms.
I'm with you.
We cannot give up on it.
Yeah,
we have to keep.
That's exactly right. And here's the other thing. And they're like, well, you don't know who you're going to run against. It doesn't matter who I'm going to run against, because no matter who gets put up, if that Democrat gets elected, the DNC tells them, you know,
what to do, where to go,
that's right.
What to say, how
That's
to
right.
say
The
it.
Hakeem Jeffries, the Schumers, once they get there, it doesn't matter who that person is anyway. You could be the most dynamic person. That party swallows you up.
Mm-hmm.
Sure they
And
do.
and I know that sounds hypocritical, and people say, "Oh, Republicans do the same thing." I mean, by the numbers, we don't. By the numbers, Republicans are far more willing to kind of, you know, vote conscience or what's in the best interest of their constituents. But that Democratic Party, whoever they put up, is just going to be another shadow puppet. And for Pappas to now say, "Hey, I'm gonna run for Senate," it's like, what did you do the last 8 years here? I mean, you've just rubber stamped everything that the party told you.
That's literally all he's done. And
he worked for Shaheen.
I don't even see news stories about him unless it's in relation to an upcoming campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden he's out touring the state.
Yes.
Yeah. What a guy.
I mean, the real question in that race is, in the Senate race, is will Krista Nunu run? I mean, that's the real question there, because it doesn't matter who they put up. He's well liked, and he did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Some people,
he's got the name recognition.
he's got his father. I mean, it's a historic thing.
Yeah.
His brother was a senator as well, so U.S. senator. So I think he's just sitting back. I know Chris well enough to know that he's loving this right now. And why would somebody said the other day? Why would you put Pappas up against Sununu? Are you're going to feed him to the
I would
people
love to see, either him or Scott Brown.
Scott's. I think that's
the two of them would. I think either one of them would beat Chris Pappas. I mean,
Yes.
I saw the poll that Sununu was what eight points in like a theoretical race
Right.
between him and Pappas.
Yeah.
But
and he hasn't even hit the street yet.
yeah, exactly. So
I love when he
that's
gets on
encouraging.
TV and he plays, oh no, I'm not going to do that. How long did he do that before he finally said he was going to run, for governor?
Yeah.
He hung on, and then he loves that kind of thing. A lot of people don't like that, but I think it's kind of
there's
fun.
a strategy there. Right?
Sure it is.
The longer you put it off, the less money you have to spend
Yep.
on your actual campaign.
So that's the thing, yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
effort there that someone like you, unfortunately, has to put in that Chris Sununu wouldn't have to put in
right.
because
Yep.
he's got the name recognition
that's right.
already. So you have to spend more money. You have to spend more time. You
That's
have
right.
to put more effort into it on the front end.
And there's a lot of strategy that goes into because I'm a very transparent person. People ask me like, hey, are you going to run again? I mean, I think I know in my mind what I'm going to do.
Right.
But there's laws and there's rules against if you start saying certain things. So if you start saying I'm running for Congress, then you need to file within 10 days.
Yep.
And then if you file within 10 days, then you have to submit a campaign finance report at the end of that quarter. So when that leak happened in mid-March, if I came out and said, yeah, that's true or it's not, but if I said it's true, I've got to file by the end of March, and then I've got a campaign finance report that's due April 15th,
Yep.
and I'm going to hang a Dunkin' gift card on there, and people are going to be like, no one takes this guy seriously. So you want to make sure you time it right so that when
Sure.
you get into the race. So, I mean, technically, if I were to announce now, I wouldn't have to file my first report until July 15th. That gives you a full 3 months to raise money. So then it comes out, you signal to DC that you're a strong candidate, you're ready to rock and roll. So these are all little things that that you pick up the second time around. You're like,
Absolutely.
you do that, okay,
Yep.
we'll be better positioned.
So given that, does that mean that Pappas has already had to file?
So I think I saw some rumor that he was going to announce within the next couple of weeks. So if that's the case, he will have to file,
Yeah, he will have to file.
Okay.
in April,
Yeah.
and then he will hang his
See,
first.
they use the word exploring.
We hear
Yeah.
everybody's exploring,
Yeah.
right? And we hear all of this, and everybody just assumes, oh, they're running. So, how much of that gray area can the election committee come back and say, hey, Chris, we saw you on rock, paper, hand grenades, and it's obvious, right? You should have filed and started filing your financial reports immediately, right, in March, right? How much of that gray area is the Federal Election Commission going to be going after?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But we try to.
Because they would have to, because if they did come down on you, they'd have to come down on Goodlander and Pappas at the same time.
Yeah.
right?
No, I mean, you can say, I am seriously considering running. And, I mean, don't go out and make any political campaign finance decisions on what I'm saying right here. Because, again, I've only been in this game for, just under 2 years. But apparently, there's money that can be raised from a exploratory committee. And then you announce, and then they've upped the standards a little bit. But, if you were a single person, you could put in last time $6,600, and $3,300 would get allocated to a primary, and then the other $33 would have to sit in a different account. And if you won, that money could be spent in the general election.
Right.
So one person could put in up to $6,600, and if you're married, you can put in the
That
$13,200.
seems low.
Very
to be
low.
Putting your own money in.
Very low, yeah. So I mean, in one sense, I really appreciate
Given that a state level campaign, we're talking $1 million or more. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Congressional campaign
Yeah.
could be around $5 million. The Senate's going to be a $70, $80, $90 million raise.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're raising all this money. Now, last time Pappas came to the race with $2.5 million
Left over from his...
left over.
Yeah.
Right? Holly, Russell, myself, I think collectively we were under $1 million.
Yeah.
So
Well-
it really helps. But if it's an open seat now, guess what?
Yeah, that's
now
changes.
whoever's running for that, they have to spend money too. So it's going to be a good opportunity for us.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I don't know what, I called somebody before I came on the show to figure out, can Shaheen use the money that she's raised over the years, now that she's not running, can she slide it into the next person? And if so, how is that done? So can that money,
Gotta
because
be
she
too.
can't
I think
give
it
it
goes to the
back.
party.
She has to give it back to the party.
Yeah, I would think that's what I'm saying. So does she give it back to the DNC, or does she give it back to the local party? Because that'll make a difference, I think.
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
I don't either. I called somebody that will know the answer, and I don't have it yet.
Doesn't the money have a past? Like, if the money came from a national campaign, it's got to stay with the national DNC, or versus money that's come from a state level campaign. I don't know. I would think that the money has to have a trail as to where it came from and where.
Because
it's
you have
allowed
to
go.
file every
Right.
you know, you have to file the whole term.
And
that you're
my
running.
guess is anyone who's retiring, especially these swamp Democrats, is they're less worried about having their money go into the next campaign, and they're trying very desperately to slide that money into a personal coffer somewhere.
Sure. I mean, you look at AOC, who's now, she was, a bartender, right? And they get paid $175,000, and she's worth like $20 million now. I just saw a number the other day.
I remember when she was first elected, and she had to go down to Washington, D.C., the very first thing that happened to her was that she couldn't find an apartment she could afford.
Right.
Because she hadn't got any congressional paychecks yet. And she needed a place to stay in Washington, D.C., and couldn't afford the deposit and the first month's rent and all of that stuff that you need, and she couldn't afford it. And now all of a sudden that's not an issue anymore. Right. So.
You know, I was thinking what you.
But that's how poor she was. That she couldn't afford a place to live, so that she could go to the Capitol and vote.
Yeah, and now now she's all over the place with Bernie Sanders. That's a scary part of that.
Oh, those
that
two.
whole group. That's a scary group, right? But I was thinking, like, when Don Bolduc ran, no one. I worked on his campaign the first time, and no one knew who he was. And we went all over the state. I mean, we were like everywhere, and we didn't do that well. But then the second time around, people already heard his name, and he writes a lot of op-eds, and So I think I see the possibility that. The first time around, no one knew your name. Who's Chris Bright? I mean, I certainly didn't know it.
I joked about that. So there was a poll, like a name recognition poll, that came out in June, and I was at 0%. Now, I launched in October, so November, December, January, February, March. So I've been at this for 8 months.
And it was
0%. And it was like, Chris Bright, never heard of her. Right? So I was like, oh my God. And then Joe got in, Walter McFarlane got in. So then the crowd just got more. But we just kept growing and really... I doubled down on social media because I knew we weren't going to raise a ton of money to go on WMUR and kind of do any of that TV spend. So we laser focused on social media. And lo and behold, by like maybe mid-August, we were adding on 100 new followers an hour to our social media accounts. And so to go from 0% in June to getting 1 out of 8 votes 9 weeks later on September 10th, for me, I was like, holy crap, like we did a heck of a job. Like we really caught fire. And again, to my point about entrepreneurship, I didn't see that as a failure at all. I saw us going like this, and where they snapped the line, we just weren't there yet. So
you had a learning process.
That's right.
And you got to the point where it was starting to pay off.
Starting to pay off, right.
But you're too far in the cycle, so now it's time to...
That's right. So take everything you know, the lessons learned, the momentum, the base is still there. We've got a lot of people have reached out. In fact, the day when Shaheen announced that was a Tuesday, that following Wednesday was the leak. I mean, I was on a Zoom call. My phone just started blowing up. And everyone's like, I just saw the tweet or the text from Adam Sexton. You're getting back in the race. This was all news to me, but it was really encouraging, though, the amount of support that came out like that. So I thought to myself, all right, I mean, this is going to be a very different look this time around.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a different look for a couple of people. I mean, Joe Kelly didn't really get into the race till like 2 days before.
The last day, I think the last
sign.
day.
He didn't even sign.
Yep.
And he made a big impact because he's from here and he's not afraid to speak out and give.
No.
And but that's what people like. You know, they want you
Yeah.
to tell the truth. They want you to be a fighter, but they want you to have some common sense.
Yeah.
And I think your entrepreneur background is a big piece of this. Holly did the same thing. I mean, she's an entrepreneur, and I think she did pretty well toward the end there too. I mean, so it should be exciting. And Chris Pappas, I think he's done if Sununu runs against him.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that Goodlander does run, because that'll open up 2 seats for us, right? Those 2 seats plus the Senate seat.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be the trifecta for
yeah.
us, which would be awesome.
It would be,
but
it would be
it's getting
75%.
but to your point, it's to get the vote out. That's going to be the
Right.
toughest thing in an off presidential year.
So we really feel, and we're saying it out loud, that if someone like Sununu gets in, jumps in the race,
And Scott Brown.
If these folks jump into the Senate race and Pappas decides to run or Goodlander decides to run, we feel like that they may be done.
Yeah.
But at that point, where are we with Pappas? If he decides, let's just say that's who we're talking about. If he decides and he says, you know what, I agree, I can't win against the people that I'm going to be running against for Senate, so I'm just going to stay right here in the House.
I don't think he'll do that.
Right? I mean,
I really don't think he would do that.
and can he run for Senate and fail and still keep his House seat?
No.
Okay.
No.
No.
I'm just that's what I'm looking
Yeah.
at because that's kind of the other good side of it. If Goodlander and Pappas jump in here, then we are
each other
ripping
up.
them out.
Yeah.
At least one of those seats is now vacant, right? I
Yep.
mean, like we're saying, okay, we're going to end these two because if they both lose, then
So we just have to make
Well,
calls to
there's a
them and say,
strategy
we're
there.
behind you.
yeah.
You know, I mean, those kind of things do happen. I mean, I can remember people saying, well, you ought to run for this. You know, people are pretty easy. If you're an egomaniac, you're going to run because these people say, oh, you're great, you're doing a good job, you ought to run. I don't see Pappas stepping aside at all. And I think the person that is kind of sitting out there, as no one really talked about, is Steffi. Steffi, you know who she is? Shaheen's daughter.
Oh yes.
Oh, Stephanie Shaheen, yeah.
Yeah, Stephanie
That's
Shaheen.
right. We
so
talked about
there's
that.
that always wild card in there. I don't think I really, I'm certainly,
get name
I'm certainly don't have,
recognition,
but there's name
'Cause then they
recognition,
go right
money.
back to the polls, and I'm still voting for Shaheen.
Yeah. Yep. That'll be interesting. But I think the other two, Pappas was Shaheen's campaign manager at one time. So there's
right, worked on it.
that tie.
Yep.
So now the question, I think we're in a better position than they are. I think we're going to have some
I
good
agree with
candidates
that,
run.
yep.
I agree. We are.
Yeah.
We've got some
Finally.
momentum
Yeah.
going. And
They're going to have to spend money in their primary now, too.
Of course,
They can't sit back and let the Republicans. Last 8 years, we've been fighting each other. By the
Yep.
time we limp across, the primary line, you have 6 weeks to recover.
Yeah, that's why we're
turn
trying to
around.
change that, but it
Doesn't look like that's happening.
Well, it's
Yeah.
not going to happen now, but I think it
20
looks like
28, did I
yeah,
say?
28. Yeah.
So, and it's June, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
That'll help.
That'll help.
Yeah,
I mean, no
yeah,
question
that'll
about
help.
it.
So, of course, by then, though, Republicans will end up winning, and then having a short
We'll make it
period,
shorter, right?
Yeah, having a
it's
short
good
period.
for the incumbent.
That's
We'll
exactly
vote it
right.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
of
be
course
the
it
incumbents,
is.
and then
Yeah.
of course it'll be a longer window again.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You know what? We used to say in the Army, you go to war with the army you have. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Yeah.
It'd be nice if
Good
you had
point.
more people. It'd be nice if the weather was nicer. It'd be nice if, we had a longer period in between the primary. Sometimes it just is what it is.
Sure.
Just pull down your chin strap.
No, that's it.
And,
Yeah,
and
no,
go
absolutely.
figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Chris. So we're about at the end. You want to let folks know how they can get in touch with you, talk with you, encourage you to say yes to running.
So I'm on Facebook right now. We don't, again, we haven't formally announced that I'm going to be doing this, but all updates right now are coming through Facebook, and when we launch here. But we need to make a decision pretty quickly. So basically, giving myself until April 15th to figure out we can get the team in place and make a run at this, and we'll be off to the races.
Fantastic. Good
But
luck.
thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate
Thanks for being.
this.
We'll have to have you on again.
Absolutely.
Because as the cycle gets going, I think
Yeah,
it
there'll be
might
lots to talk about, huh?
There will be. So we're talking to Chris Ager,
Yep.
the former chair of the New Hampshire RNC,
Yep.
or New Hampshire Republican Committee, next week. And in just a few minutes, the Wilson Hill Pistol Club membership meeting is taking place at 1732 Lakeshore Road.
So get out of here.
If you decide to show up. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.